Hey guys, welcome back. Hannah Hawkins, today's YouTuber that we're going to be watching, is dealing with a situation that affects a lot of us. She doesn't feel her best. A couple of months back, she shaved her head. Her hair has kind of regrown in and it kind of has that 1990s Kathy Bates look, right? She's also gained a little bit of weight. And when you combine the way she looks and the way she feels, she just doesn't feel right. Let me know your thoughts.
Stupid. Like I paint my nails and I do like wearing makeup. And like sometimes I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, wow, I look really beautiful today. Like I look ladylike, you know? And there's nothing wrong with not being viewed as feminine, but like I don't know. I feel insecure. Like really insecure. And I want to lose weight and I feel like I've tried, but obviously I'm not trying hard enough and I'm not actually putting in the work or else I would have seen results by now. And that in itself is frustrating. I know what I need to do. It's just like that mental block of just like getting over myself and just doing it and like putting in the work and exercising. I saw a video. It's like weight loss is simple. It's not easy, but it is simple. Like, I just need to be in a calorie deficit and, like, burn more calories than I intake. It sounds so simple and it sounds so easy, but it's freaking not. Like, I wish I could just be one of those girls that wakes up at 6 a.m. and goes to the gym and drinks her green smoothie and wears her little matching workout outfits and just lives her life and, like, but then when I do see girls like that in real life, they're like, starving themselves, and I don't want to be like that because I was like that in high school. Like I would skip lunch and like I also just had so much anxiety. Like if people wouldn't walk with me to the lunch line, I just wouldn't eat lunch that day, and I thought I was so fat. So then I started skipping like 2 meals a day. And now that I look back, I was looking at pictures of myself today, and I thought I was so fat back then. And oh my gosh, I was a freaking twig. And now I look at myself and I'm like, wow, now I am fat, you know?
Like, I know why that is, because back when you were in high school, you probably had to take one, maybe even 2 years of PE. And then in your junior and senior year, all of a sudden you might not be in sports or PE anymore. And before you know it, you're starting to gain weight after graduation. That's why I'm telling you guys, we got to get back into that mode we had when we were students, when we were young, when we were active. And we're going to do it. Today's going to be that first day you put your shoes on and walk with me. I can feel it.
Like, my goal is to lose 50 pounds. Like, overall, I want to lose 50 pounds, right? I'm not gonna, like, put exact numbers of, like, the weight I want to get to or what I weigh now. I mean, maybe I'll do that in the future. I don't know. I just feel like that's not really helpful. And like I have health problems. Nothing like bad, but like now I struggle with acid reflux at night. Like right now my throat hurts. Like I feel the stuff, the stomach acid coming back into my esophagus, and it's just annoying. And like maybe TMI, but whatever. And like I just and like I also struggle with binge eating, so that's a whole other thing. And then I stress eat, like I'm an emotional eater. So when I'm upset, I eat. When I'm mad, I eat. Like when I'm happy, I eat. Like I celebrate by getting food. Like I just don't have a healthy relationship with food. And this video is literally just me complaining about myself.
Sometimes when we vent, especially out loud, and then we hear ourselves venting, we say, hey, there's our why. We're tired of feeling overweight. We're tired of not feeling our best. We're tired of acid reflux and all these different things. You have your list just like I have mine. If we can get to the point where instead of eating every time we're upset or eating every time we're stressed, and we could switch that from eating to maybe taking a walk, maybe having a glass of ice water, maybe just trying to think positive thoughts rather than negative, right? There's positive things we can do as an alternative, but you got to be willing to take that first step. So go get your shoes.
But this is me saying, like, I need help, and I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna stick to it this time. And this time next year, I will have lost the 50 pounds that I want to lose. I think I can do it. It's gonna be really, really, really hard, but like I also just try to remember like time is gonna pass regardless. So like in a year, I'll still be here, hopefully. But like in a year, I'm still gonna be here. But like I could just work really hard and lose the weight I want to lose and be healthy, or I could do nothing and then still be as miserable as I am internally. There's so many things I don't like about myself, so I guess this is the video where I say, well, I'm gonna change it, but I don't know. In my head, I'm like, well, we'll see, but no, like, we really do need to see. I need to see some change. Like, I just can't be like Helen Keller and act like I don't see my fucking problems. Like, I just can't. If you are struggling, we're gonna be in this together. And so you can comment how you're feeling, and we'll be in it together.
You know, when I look at her, I think she's a cute girl. I think she's somebody that's close enough to her youth that if she starts something slowly, and like she even said, if she gives herself a year, guys, you don't have to do anything drastic. Just take a daily walk, start cutting out some of those sugars, switch up the Coca-Colas for water, and in a year you can lose a lot of weight.
And I'm just gonna take you guys along with me for my journey. It's like 11:30 at night. I'm going to bed. I'm not doing a workout, but I am gonna wake up in the morning, vlog myself. Maybe every time I record myself, like I'll just oh my gosh, I can't even speak. Like maybe every time I get up to like work out or something, I'll just like record myself so that way like, you know, like it's like you guys like keeping me accountable, whatever. But yeah.
You know, sometimes people make mountains out of little molehills when it comes to their problems, right? I think she's got a bright future. She's got plenty of time to change things, but you might be different. It might be time for you to start doing something now. I think that we should walk. I'll walk with you every single day. I've already been walking for 6 months straight with my venters, and I want you to become our next venter. Here's how you do it. Go get your shoes. Let's go for a walk. Good morning, venters. I hope you guys are having a wonderful start to your day. I got out here about an hour later than normal, so it is pretty warm. You know, I feel cheated with August and September so far. Let me tell you why. In August, I thought the temperatures would dip down a couple degrees, and I guess they did. They literally dipped about 1.5 degrees, right? So they were still in the 110s for most of the month. And then in September, which is technically the fall, it's still been pushing 110. It has been hot as you wouldn't believe out here. Holy moly. Hopefully we'll start dipping down here in the next couple weeks into the low 100s, and I'm hoping that by the time Halloween rolls around, we'll be in the high 90s. But either way, where you're living, you're probably not experiencing Arizona heat, and it probably is cooling down for you. So if you're starting to notice temperature drops where you live, please let me know. Guys, something happened over the last couple days that I think is shocking, yet at the same time, I kind of think it's much needed. I don't know if you guys have heard, but Colt Gray, the kid that took away 4 people's lives in Winder, Georgia, his father, Colin, is looking at up to 180 years behind bars. Check out these charges that his father has to deal with. Check this out. He provided a firearm to his 14-year-old son for his birthday, And from what I understand, the firearm that he provided is kind of an over-the-top firearm. In addition to that knowledge, we come to find out that about this time last year, he was on the radar of the FBI, and the dad insisted that the son didn't have any access to these locked up firearms. Well, if he doesn't have access to them, and you're teaching him how to hunt, you know, it sounds to me like on top of him not having access to your guns, you're buying him his own guns. So obviously it sounds like they weren't really thoroughly honest with the FBI investigators. So check this out. His dad, Colin, has been charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder, 4 counts of secondary involuntary manslaughter, and 8 counts of second-degree felony cruelty to children. All of these counts come with many, many years in prison. For example, for the felony second-degree murder counts, he has up to 30 years in prison for each count. For the felony involuntary manslaughter counts, he has up to 10 years per each count, and that also works for the 8 cruelty to children counts he's facing, up to 10 years per each count, for a grand total of 180 years. And if you saw his body language in the courts, the man is a shell of his former self. I feel poorly for the guy because obviously he didn't pull the trigger, but at the same time, you want to know something, guys? If he ends up serving any time, which hopefully he will serve a little time at least, right? If not a lot of time, if anything, it really sends a precedence to the rest of the world that, hey, you better start watching your kids. If your kid has any sort of emotional disorder, do you really want to be purchasing him any type of weapon? And in case you think you're safe because you bought your kid a machete or a knife collection or something, I have a feeling you're going to get in trouble in the future too. So when it comes to parents, guys, quit buying your kids weapons. If you want to show them where your weapon is in a worst case scenario, you know, because you feel like somebody might come into your house and you have to defend yourself, I suppose that's one thing, but you obviously better make sure that your son or daughter's mental well-being is such that they can handle that. I don't know if you guys remember, but I think it was last year we had a situation where a girl said she was possessed by the devil and she ended up killing her little brother. Did you guys remember hearing about that? She literally said that like a demon had taken over her soul, and she ended up killing her little brother. And it was just really, really sad because I remember they were showing the cops, you know, taking her away, and she was just an emotional wreck, like she had come to and realized what she did to her brother. If you guys remember that story, maybe let me know down in the comments, because I know it's not a false memory. That's something I really, really remember hearing about, and I don't know if it was 1 year ago or 3 years ago. That's the one thing about all these stories that we collect, guys, as we get older. Pretty soon we just store them in the memory, but we don't necessarily take note of what month or what year it happened. Pretty soon it just goes in the pile of memories with the rest of them, right? Hey, I got another story that I think is going to blow your mind. What do you think of when you and your partner visit a surgeon for a procedure that you have to get done? For example, let's say you needed to get your spleen taken out. You would expect that the surgeon would know where the spleen is in the body, and you would also expect him to know where other organs like your heart and your liver and such are in your body. Well, could you imagine if you or your spouse had to have emergency surgery on your spleen, and then imagine if the doctor/surgeon that was supposed to remove that spleen, could you imagine if he or she accidentally removed your liver? Then imagine your spouse actually dying right there in the hospital for what should have been a surgery that should have been successful. This is the story, guys, of Beverly Bryant. It was her husband, William, who lost his life during surgery on August 21st at Sacred Heart Emerald Coast Hospital in Florida. They're a well-to-do family from Alabama that had a secondary home in Florida, but the woman did not want her husband going through surgery there. She wanted to get a medical transport, via helicopter or something, to her home in Alabama so that her husband could do the surgery there. But check this out. Surgeon Dr. Thomas Shavnosky warned her that if her husband tried to make it home to Alabama, he would bleed out and die. So imagine the very surgeon that actually removes your husband's liver in error because there was a cyst on the husband's spleen. The very surgeon that ends up taking your husband's life was the one that basically coerced you into having this surgery right away. I find this just amazing. This is such a tragedy. Apparently her husband was 70 years old, father of 3 children, grandfather of 8 children. So he had obviously a lot to live for. And just to know that his liver was taken out instead of his spleen. The hospital's pathologist declared, this organ that you've removed is not a spleen, it's a liver. Now here's the craziest thing. Dr. Thomas Shavnosky's been guilty of taking out the wrong organs before. This kind of reminds me of that Chicago cop that shot the woman in the face. Before the shooting, he had plenty of problems with other police precincts and sheriff's offices that he had worked with. When you have red flags, you're supposed to eliminate those candidates and not go with those type of candidates. Well, check this out. In 2023, this same surgeon was guilty of removing part of a pancreas of a patient when he was supposed to remove part of an adrenal gland. Now, that earlier case got dropped, so technically criminal charges were never part of the deal because the case settled before it ever went to court. But at the same time, if you were a potential patient of this surgeon and you knew that just the year before he had made this critical error of taking out the wrong organ, that's one of those confidence drops. If your surgeon doesn't know what the hell organ he's taken out or doesn't know what he's doing, there's 2 ways to look at that. Either he's completely incompetent and doesn't know what he's doing, or he's completely criminal and he's doing these things on purpose. So right now the hospital and authorities down there in Florida are actually investigating, and they're going to find out if Dr. Shavnosky is a criminal or if he's just really not a good surgeon at all. Either way, let's put that surgeon on the list of doctors we refuse to get work done with. Whenever you go to your surgeon, I always recommend that you check their reviews out. My doctor tried recommending me to a surgeon that had multiple 1-star reviews. And when I looked at the surgeon's reviews, they were scary. There was a lot of people that were like, hey, this guy did not help me post-surgery. This guy sped through the process, and when I had questions, he poo-pooed my questions. Oh, that was a pretty, listen to that. Wow, what a pretty bird sound. That bird's gonna get laid. Holy moly. There's gonna be a lucky bird girl waiting for that beautiful singer. Holy moly. Guys, when it comes to surgeries and stuff, one of the things that I'm proud of is I did my homework on this surgeon that a doctor recommended to me. And not only did the doctor recommend this surgeon, but he did it so matter-of-factly. And I asked him, I said, hey, do you have a good surgeon that you could recommend for taking off this cyst by my tailbone? Now let's think about what your tailbone is. It's basically the lower part of your spine. You need it to sit, you need it to twist, you need it to move. And basically, if you have a messed up tailbone, you've probably got a pretty shitty life because you're probably not sleeping well. You're probably not sitting very nicely when you have to sit in a chair or on a couch, right? And if you have tailbone issues, trust me, it can really make life uncomfortable. It did for me. Now, could you imagine on top of having a cyst by your tailbone that needs to be removed, could you imagine if you went to the wrong surgeon and ended up having complications forever? Well, when I went to this guy's reviews, to a T, they were horrible. Now, his overall review was about 3.5, 4 stars, but here's how he got there. He probably had a dozen 1-star reviews. Every one of them said if we could give him 0 stars, we would, okay? So obviously his score is a little higher than normal because of that. On top of that, guys, check this out. Every one of his 5-star reviews was extremely vague. Hey, I saw the doctor, he changed my life. I was miserable before the surgery, and I'm great after. Guys, it does not get any more vague than that. You couldn't mention what the doctor did surgery-wise. You couldn't mention what you were having issues with on your body in this review. It was just some vague 5-star review. He had about 15 or 20 of those. He had so many 1-star reviews, and every one of his 1-star reviews was thorough. Went in to see the doctor, made me feel like I had 30 seconds with him instead of 5 or 10 minutes. I had a list of questions. He assured me we would slowly but surely get all the questions answered. He had a horrible bedside manner. I never felt so much pain and misery in my life. Those were his reviews. So at what point do I as a person say, hey, my doctor's a piece of shit for telling me to go to this guy? And so what I did was a year or 2 earlier, well, actually closer to 3 years earlier, I had a double hernia surgery. And in that surgery, for whatever reason, I was smart and I immediately started looking for surgeons that had 5-star reviews. I live in Phoenix, close to the town of Glendale, or close to the city of Glendale, right on the border of the 2 cities. My surgeon is in Chandler, quite a ways away. There's a lot of surgeons right down the street from me, but the guy with the best reviews was in Chandler, Dr. Stevenson. And to this day, if any of you guys live in Arizona and you or a family member needs to have surgery done, I want you to give Dr. Stevenson a look, because I think the world of him. The people that work with him, do they always answer every call that you give or email? No, but I think you're going to find that out in most doctors' offices. As far as the doctor himself, excellent bedside manner. Every question I ever had was answered, made me feel good about my choice to go with him, and every one of his reviews looked legit. Did a great job. I ended up going with him for my tailbone. And I guess the thing that was crazy is, why didn't I think to go with him right off the bat? If you ever go through surgery and you have a good scenario with a good doctor, see if you can have that doctor do future surgeries. Duh! So I want to know your guys' thought. Have you or a family member ever had to go through surgery? Have you ever had to deal with a doctor that had a horrible bedside manner? Have you ever had to deal with a doctor's office where maybe they felt like you were a number rather than a person? These are things that you have to take into account when it comes to making a decision about your health. And even if it's not your health directly, if it's your kids or your spouse, make sure you do your homework. It only takes a minute to look up a doctor's reviews. And when you go to see their reviews and you see that they have 4.5 or 5 stars, take that with a grain of salt. Read those reviews. Because what you might find is the same thing I found, that with the one surgeon, he did have 3.5 or 4 stars, but if you look deep into the reviews, you'll find that they have a lot of fake reviews up there. Or maybe they had a patient that had a routine, easy to do surgery, and you know how doctors and doctors' offices are. Hey, would you mind going to Glassdoor and giving a review for Dr. So-and-so? And of course, if you had a successful surgery with no problems, you're going to tell everybody how great your surgeon is. Well, I don't care if he, helped you fix a broken finger. I want to know how the guy does when it comes to people's vital organs. I think anybody could take a finger wound and probably get you out of the hospital alive. How does he do when it comes to other things? Those are the important things, and I guarantee you, Out of all the venters watching this right now, all three of us, I guarantee you some of us has some sort of doctor story that wasn't the best. And you want to know something? This isn't this isn't limited to surgeons. Your local doctor could just be a miserable person. If you don't like your doctor, call your insurance company. Ask them for a list of potential people that take your insurance. Take that list, again, with a grain of salt. You're going to take every one of those providers and go on the internet and find out what their reviews are. Never make that mistake again. One of the things is I'm still with that doctor, and I'm going to go get my lab work done because I feel healthy as a horse right now. As a matter of fact, I was going to ask you guys have been walking with me for 6 months. Do you feel like you're more healthy today than you were 6 months ago? If the answer is yes, then guess what? We walked back into the past a little bit. We became younger versions of ourselves. And if we keep getting healthier and healthier, eating and drinking better and better, and staying active, I think we're going to continue to grow younger. What do you guys think? Hey, I saw an article yesterday. I didn't really read into it too much, but I got the gist of it. Scientists say that we're really, really close to making a breakthrough when it comes to longevity, and they believe that they have set back the aging process in mice, and I think they even did it in a dog, where basically they have given these different, I don't even know if it's hormones or what, because again, I didn't really dive into it, but they feel like they're going to be able to cure aging here in the next handful of years, and they've already done so on mice. They were showing 2 mice that I believe they said were twins. One of the mice had gray hair and even some wrinkles. It's amazing how they kind of reflect humans when they age, gray hair and wrinkles, right? So this one mouse just looked like shit. And it was right next to this chubby little brown-haired mouse, and they were trying to say that, hey, these are twin mice. Look how one looks youthful and brand new, and how the other one looks, like shit. They didn't say that, but you know what I mean. Look like poop compared to the other. And that's the thing. So here's my question for you. You live in a world where a lot of your friends have passed on, right? And all of a sudden you're given a choice. Do you take this pill? This pill is going to slowly but surely make it where this time next year you're going to look and feel 5 years younger. If you continue to take this pill over the next 20 or 30 years, you're not going to age. It's not going to necessarily keep you alive forever, but if doctors believe that they can make the average person go from 75 years to, let's say, 110 years, do you think that would be something you'd be interested in? Is death a gift or is it a horror? See, if there is no afterlife, then we have to say, heck, I want to live as long as I can. If this is the only picture, this is the only movie worth seeing, I want to buy a ticket. I want to watch this movie, right? But if there is an afterlife, then you could actually see avoiding death as a cruel punishment. If half of your family, and if you actually go back into our ancestors, if 99% of our family is already up in heaven or already passed on, and there is some sort of realm that we go to after this life, you deserve to be able to punch your ticket and go there. What if scientists make it where in the future, people can live 600 or 700 years? I think there would have to be a trade-off. What do you mean, Jetchy? Well, Bob, let's think about this. Imagine if everybody had 2 children, and imagine if everybody lived 600 years. That would mean that at age 200, they probably still look like a teenager or a very young adult, even though they've got 200 years worth of experience in them. If you have a situation where everybody's living forever and having kids, they're probably going to end up having more than 2 kids. You're probably going to have a situation like Noah in the Bible where you've got 7,800 kids. You've got a little nation of kids underneath you. That could be something else. So here's the trade-off, Bob. We're going to give you access to this medication, But we only allow people up to the age of 40 or 50 to have kids. So after age 50, you have to agree to be sterile. Okay, so the good news is you're going to live for 500, 600, 700 years. The iffy news, because it might not be considered bad to most, is come age 40 or 50, they're going to shut off your telomeres to the point where, or not your telomeres extension is what keeps you living forever. They have ways of increasing the length on your telomeres in dogs and rats, so more than likely they're going to be able to do it in humans at some point in the future, maybe not today, but tomorrow, right? And so what's going to happen is if you have all of a sudden everybody living forever, even if it takes you 200 or 300 years, you're eventually going to have multiple kids, right? God, if you lived for 400 or 500 years, you could technically change your sexual orientation 2 or 3 times during that time. Who knows what the future holds? You start off as a lesbian for your first 50 or 100 years, and then somewhere around age 200, you're like, I think I want to have kids with a dude, right? You could literally live 2 or 3 lifetimes in 300 or 400 years, right? Maybe even more. So the point is all of a sudden we live in a world where you're allowed to have kids, but only up to a certain age. And then after that, they shut you off. They sterilize you. Why? We can't have billions of people having thousands of kids each. No, you got to be shut off at some point. God, that would be a weird, bizarre future. You have your choice. Do you want to live forever, or do you want to have the ability to die? You know, is it a cruelty to keep somebody alive forever? Well, that depends. I mean, if you felt like a teenager for hundreds of years, and you had the ability to procreate, so in other words, you feel like a teenager, right? God, that might be the most wonderful thing ever. What if you had ailments that for the first 200 or 300 years of your life, there was no cure or treatment for, but what if the last 200 or 300 years of your life, they were able to reverse those ailments? That would be crazy. By the way, that's what happened with the dog. The dog had a situation, and again, I don't remember the video I saw this. You guys are just like me. You watch a crazy YouTube video and you think that was good, and before you know it, you're watching a different video. This dog had a situation where he could not jump up on the couch, where he was basically miserable, where all the other animals were playing, and he was basically sitting there next to mom and dad watching TV. They ended up giving him this telomere extension medicine or whatever, and now he's out there running like he did when he was 1 or 2 years old. It's amazing. Now, they did say this dog isn't going to live forever, but they do expect him to live for another 8 or 10 years, and the dog is already 12. And this is a medium to large size dog. This is not one of those little dogs that sometimes can live to be 16 or 17. This is one of those dogs that routinely lives to be about 9 years old before they go. By the way, that's the one thing that kills me about dogs. I love dogs so much, and I would have a dog every day of my life, but man, when you have to put down your Hershey, my Hershey was my little mini poodle. Oh my God. His last years on the earth were so sad. He would kind of act like somebody hit him on the head, you know, like I, and nobody touched him. And then you take him to the dog, hospital, and I feel like the dog hospital always has 2 options. We're going to put him to sleep, or we're going to do some experimental surgery that's really expensive, right? And in Hershey's case, they didn't even offer the experimental surgery. They're just like, he needs to be put down. He's got this, that, and the other. I don't even remember the situation, but they said he had to be put down. It's very sad when you have to call your kids and your ex and different people and say, hey, just want to let you know that we're putting Hershey down. So, put the dog in your prayers. We'll see him when we get to heaven, type thing. If you've ever had to put down an animal, you know that there's a lot of pain there. Oh my God, so much pain. There are people that'll pay thousands of dollars to get their dog a surgery or something, to save their life or extend their life. If you do that, I wish I could tell you were crazy, but the reality is, it sounds like your heart is really there. You've got a wonderful heart if you're willing to pay thousands of dollars to save the family dog. Let's talk about the family dog. The family dog is a very special animal to all of us. There's something very loving about the family dog, and I bet many of us can even remember our first puppy, our first dog. My first dog was Twinkle Little Star. I got it from one of the neighbors, you know, and we had his papers and everything. He was I forget if it was a he or a she now, but it was a beagle, you know. And my family has a history with beagles because those are my mother's favorite dog. My dad's favorite dog, from what I understand, was his Doberman Pinscher. He didn't have a Min Pin like I did. He had a full-size Doberman Pinscher. My favorite dogs are probably mini poodles. There's something about having a dog that doesn't shed, you know? But anyway, enough with these four-figured characters. What do you guys think about the idea of living forever? If your doctor offered you something that could extend your life so, you know, maybe you lived an extra 50 years, would that be something you would want to do? What if they could give you incremental shots? So the first shot makes you live an extra 10 years. Would you like a situation where you could just maybe steal an extra 10 years with your family? Let me know your guys' thoughts. Here's the thing that's so scary. I'm a man of faith, so I believe firmly that when you take your last breath and you see your last sights on this planet, hopefully your eyelids open and you're in another world, whether it be heaven or reincarnation or whatever. That's what I hope for. But I don't know if that happens, right? It's faith, it's not knowledge. So what happens is, are you actually penalizing yourself by not going to that next world, so to speak? I know it sounds kind of like a goofy question, but that's the fun thing with walking. Sometimes when you're walking with your sister or your brother or your best friend, sometimes you come up with the most enjoyable conversations. These type of conversations almost are impossible to have when you're just sitting there watching TV like a zombie. So call up your best friend, call up your sister or brother, ask them if they want to meet together for lunch, and ask them if they want to take a walk. Who knows, maybe they'll end up loving their walk half as much as you do. Because you love your walk so much, even loving it half as much would be something. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow.